Hey, I just want to drop in today to tell you or to encourage you to keep pushing. Yeah, keep pushing. Sometimes in the Philippians, the third chapter, he talked about how he was pressing for the mark of the high calling. I'm sorry, he was pressing for the prize of the high calling of God. I want to tell you that, first of all, there were three words in that verse that kind of caught my attention. The first word was press. Press simply means to push forward. And when you are leaning against something, you're pushing forward with force. Pressing is you're leaning against it, but you try to put a force behind it. Pushing, I mean. And then when you are trying to accomplish a goal, sometimes we'll find ourselves pushing against some things that are hinder us from getting to the goal that we're trying to get to. You might be pushing against your fears, or the fear of failing again because you failed several times trying to accomplish the dream that you have. You might be pushing against doubts from other friends and family when you tell them what you want to do, and they looking at you crazy and make you feel like that you can't accomplish what you want to do. You might be pushing against your own self-esteem, that you don't feel like that you're good enough to be able to accomplish what it is that you're feeling you want to do. That unction that's inside of you to accomplish that dream that you're trying to do. Sometimes you find yourself pushing against your own self or your own will. The next thing that came in that verse that caught my attention was the pressing for the mark. The mark is the next word. The mark. There has to be a finishing point that you want to get to whenever that you're starting on a journey. Even if you're leaving from home to go to on a vacation or going on whatever you're going to, there has to be a destination that you're trying to reach. In your life, there are destinations, whether they're emotional destinations, whether they are physical destinations, or whether they are life achievement destinations that you're trying to reach. There's a goal that you have in mind, and trying to press to get to that goal or press to that mark, then it's hard to do sometimes because you're pressing against so many different adversities. So you want to press to that mark. But here's another thing that got me. The other thing is that there's a prize when you get there. Oh, I pressed to the mark, or for the prize of the high calling, for the mark prize or the high calling. That prize is to be able to establish or be able to see that you have overcome all the obstacles and you started that business that you want to do. You were able to achieve the goal of going back to school and getting that degree that you were looking for. You made it. That's the prize that you have for yourself. But now I'm not talking about, I want to do something besides just these personal marks. I want to talk about the last thing that was said in that verse. He was pressing for the prize of the mark, for the mark of the high calling. The high calling of God. God has called you for something or to do on this earth. If he did not call you for it, then you would not have been created. So when God puts a calling in you, he has called you, but he also puts a mark in you or a vision or an achievement he wants you to reach. You just feel it in your spirit to do it. And you know that you felt that God called you to do this thing because God designed you for the purpose of that doing that only just you could do. He didn't give it to anybody else. You don't worry about what somebody else is doing. Don't worry about how far they made it. Even if it's the same thing you're trying to do, the same kind of business, the same kind of degree you're trying to reach, and the same kind of relationship you're trying to have, but you don't compare what you are doing, how far you are and what you have with somebody else's, because their particular calling, their particular vision is not yours to achieve or to reach. The mark of the high calling was from God himself, and he placed it in your spirit before you were even placed in the belly of your mama. And he said, I'm going to create somebody to achieve this particular thing on this earth for this particular season, in a particular era of time. He called you out of eternity and placed you in time, in this era of time, so that you can be designed to achieve it. Now, the failures you might have trying to get to that are going to happen. You might have some times you're going to fail. Doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to, you're going to have some heartaches and pains and everything, but God is allowing those heartaches and those failures to happen because they are developing you to be able to handle the situation when you reach the mark that he has placed in your life to reach. See, sometimes that's why everybody can't be a millionaire, because everyone cannot handle $1 million. He said, well, you ask him to be a millionaire, or God said, I'm going to make them a millionaire, but I got to get them ready to be able to handle the blessing that I'm going to give you. Can you handle the blessing that that you've been praying for? If you're going to pray for something or ask God to give you something, then be grateful for what you have already. Take care of what you have already. And then God says, since I can trust you with that right there, then I can bless you with some more to prepare you to handle the call, the destination that I have for your life to do, or that $1 million you've been asking God to bless you with. Sometimes you got to be prepared. And that means sometimes falling and stumbling and just not reaching the mark. And when you do that, you learn from your mistakes. You learn from the thing. You ask God, forgive me for what I did. Show me not to do it no more. You gather that information and you get the wisdom. See, knowledge and wisdom are two different things. Knowledge is just having information of knowing about something, but wisdom is taking that information and being able to use it with wisdom to apply it to the situation that you're trying to do. That's what wisdom is. So when God has you a high calling, that calling that comes from God, then He has placed in you the unction to press for the mark, for the prize of the high calling. He wants you to press for the mark of the prize for the high calling. You have to remember, keep your eye on the prize. Keep your eye on the mark. Keep your eye open, your ears open, your heart open to the calling that came directly from God. And that calling sometimes comes with a price. But it doesn't matter, because you were designed for this. If He places a vision in you, that's going to take a lot of faith. And He's not going to give you something that you can do on your own. He's going to give you a vision that's bigger than you, so that when you try to achieve that prize, that God will get the glory every time and every step of the way. Every miracle that happens on the journey to get to the prize, it's going to be God getting the glory. But if you can do it on your own, then you don't need the faith. And if you don't need the faith, then you don't need God. And if you don't need God, He can't get the glory. And the only way you're going to please God is with your faith, because the Bible tells you that without faith, it's impossible to please God. So when you find yourself stumbling on your journey, trying to reach the prize of the mark of the high calling, then say, well, okay, God, I've stumbled, but I'm dusting my knees off so that you can help me go a little further. Keep pushing. Don't quit. Keep pushing. I know it's difficult sometimes, but keep pushing. I know you're pushing against your failures, but keep going anyway. I know you're pushing against your fears, but keep going anyway. I know you're pushing against self-doubts and low self-esteem and other people saying that you can't do it, and all these people that are going to naysayers that's hating against you, your enemy trying to tell you, block your play. You keep pushing. Because if you keep pushing, God said, I got you. He's going to be there to help you go forward. He's going to be there to help you when you stumble. All you're doing is stumbling forward. And when you stumble forward, guess what? You're a little closer to the goal you would have been when a person is trying to get to the next base in baseball, and they can't run fast enough to get it before they get out. They slide, they lay down, they fall and slide into it. So consider your fade, your falling, a slide to the next base. That's all it is. It's just a slide. Keep pushing. Don't stop. God got you. So when you look back and say, you know what? I pressed for the mark of the prize, for the mark of the high calling. And God said, you did. You did that. You made it. I knew you could do it all the time because I designed you for it. But I had to get you ready to be able to handle the fame or the recognition of achieving that goal. But what you got to make sure you do, when you do achieve it, do not keep that glory to yourself. When that baseball player gets up from sliding on the home base, he gets up and the first thing he do is dust off the dust from him from sliding on that dirt. When you reach that high calling, when you reach that mark, you stand up, you don't keep God's glory. Dust it off and give it back to God. Because He's the one that got you there. He's the one that gave you the strength to keep pushing. He's the one that gave you the faith to keep pushing. I know it's going to be tough. I know you feel like you're not gonna make it. Keep pushing.